Oh, Starcraft. Being one of my favorite real-time strategy games, you know, the futuristic feel, the what I believe is an immensely awesome campaign and storyline, the endless learning curve that exists within the game. You know, I remember waiting 2.5 years on pre-order for this game to come out because of how much they delayed it just to make sure it was a good game. And it's one of the most famous games in existence now. There's all sorts of esports for it, and you know, it's a fun time. You know, you get aggravated at it all the fucking time, but it's still a good game. But, you know, I'm not a teenager anymore. I don't have tons of time. The game has a very, very steep learning curve in some areas where you just have to dedicate hours of time to just training and getting better. And if you don't maintain that training, you lose what you worked on. And, you know, most people don't have that type of time. So what do you do when you get to that point? What do you do when, you know, you've hit your plateau, you're not really improving or anything, and you're running out of time to spend on all this working on improving your game skills? You know, you've played the campaign, you've done a lot of multiplayer, you're not getting any better, so you're not really feeling achieved because you have a pretty average win-loss ratio. So, you know, what do you do at this point? Do you abandon the game that you've had around for well over a decade now with StarCraft 1 and 2? What do you do? Is there a purpose to buying the expansion if you're only going to play the campaign and play it for a few months? And the answer is yes, and we're going to get into that today as I go into my second episode of Game Revival, and we are going to talk about things that exist to make StarCraft 2 a better experience and something you can go back to. And we're not going to focus on mods in this game like we would. I mean, I guess they could be considered mods, but we're going to look in the kind of taboo section that a lot of people won't go into of StarCraft 2, and that is the arcade. We're going to look at 5 out of the endless amounts of things there are in there. Different games that have been created by users that put a nice, unique spin on the StarCraft experience they'll bring you back to it and give you something to do so you have a reason to keep it in your game library. First arcade mod thing we're going to talk about is called SC or StarCraft Universe. Now, this is I haven't delved into this arcade game very much, but it's very interesting from what I have played. It kind of takes that long-lost Vanguard class and race, you have your abilities, and you do missions that, to this point, I've only done a couple, and I don't know the full extent of what's out there. But it has a lot of fighting, it has a lot of that World of Warcraft feel. I mean, obviously it's not done on a scale to World of Warcraft, but for the people who made it, who are a couple of fans, I believe, or a group of them, it's not a huge... I mean, it's not going to be comparable to World of Warcraft, but it is very, very fun. And you do these quests, you can buy new armor, and everything in the game is related to StarCraft in some way. You kill the enemies, you fight the high-ranking bosses. It's a fun... I find it to be an enjoyable experience, and, you know, a lot of people say, well, why wouldn't you play World of Warcraft instead? Well, you know, StarCraft Universe is free. You know, you just have to have StarCraft, and you already have StarCraft Universe. Obviously, like I said, it's not going to be huge as far as the MMO goes, but they are working on it, and it's just something to check out, and could be an addition to your StarCraft games to add some flavor to the game and bring you back and work on reviving this game for you guys. So Nexus Wars is a much more popular mod, and it's one that gets beat up fairly often. It's basically, it takes the fundamental StarCraft, which is, you know, limited resources, balancing economy and military, making sure that you're countering whatever units your opponent's building. It takes all those fundamentals and it puts them in a very, very simplistic game mode where you essentially have one worker, your income is manual, you build buildings that produce units automatically, they send the units in automatically, and it's just kind of a who can push the other person to their base and destroy their base. It's StarCraft at its simplest level. Now, I don't find this game to be a replacement for StarCraft like some people do, because it is very low-key. It's not, you know, it's very mind-numbing to some sense. But, you know, sometimes you want to play StarCraft, regardless of what mood you're in, but you just don't have that mental state to play Starcraft as it fully stands. I've had many days where I've gone to play Starcraft and I'm just not mentally there and focused, and I just get destroyed because you need to have a level of mental focus on what you're doing in order to excel at Starcraft. So this is a good alternative if you want to have that Starcraft-y experience without having to worry about concentrating on every little thing you do. This is a good substitute on those times where you're looking for a Starcraft experience without having a, you know, and your mind's just not in the game. Obviously, when your mind is fully functional, you want to do the original Starcraft because it's a lot more interesting. But this is a good substitute. It's a good way to get you back in the game, especially for people who don't have time to practice all the heavy builds that exist within Starcraft. The next thing we're going to talk about, our next arcade game, is called Squadron Tower Defense. Now this is another fairly popular game. It basically, on the map, you have there's two different areas, and every round, I'll call them, you get minerals and gas, and it's kind of like any tower defense game, really. You pick your race right out of the beginning, and then you have a tower, or multiple towers that you build with your minerals, and each tower specializes in different things, you know, and then every round that starts, they send a wave of units at you of some sort, and your towers have to hold them off, and you have to build more towers and upgrade your towers as much as you can, and in order to lose the game, they have to get by all your towers and then destroy your giant security system at the end, which the security system can also be upgraded. But so you use your minerals to build up your towers and defensive structures. Your gas, your Vespene gas, goes towards some upgrades to your security system, but it also goes to producing units to send at your enemy's base. So you can actually send units toward the enemy's security system, and if you can do so effectively, you can destroy their security system and win the game. And that's how you beat Squadron Tower Defense. There's not too much to it. It's a nice spin on the old Starcraft feel. A lot of people like tower defense games, but there's not a ton out there that are really high quality. This does a pretty good job, so I would recommend trying this for at least once and see what you think of it. And if you like it, excuse me, there's a lot to offer, and if you don't like it, there's a lot of other arcade games that we will get into. Ultimate Boss Battles is a newer mod, I believe, that has started coming out. It kind of combines StarCraft with the StarCraft universe mod we talked about in the beginning. You pick your character, who's one of the main people from StarCraft, and you have your ship, which basically has an armory for upgrading your guy, and it has the main room for selecting missions and boss fights and things like that. And it kind of works like StarCraft universe, but you know, you have your missions, you level your guy up, you get new abilities as you play, but it takes it from a more top-down StarCraft strategy perspective. You move around like in StarCraft, you attack like in StarCraft. It's kind of a happy balance between the two, and I think the game does a pretty good job of catching that between the two, and I do enjoy it. I don't know how many hours of content you can get out of it, but I do recommend trying it. It's a nice spin on the traditional StarCraft ideas. There's not really much more to say about it. You have your different missions, that you have your, you know, your standard last so long timed missions. You have your boss battles, obviously, which take quite a bit of time, and you also have your raids, which you can't really do until you're a higher level, but you know, you upgrade your guy, you get better armor, and he gets better stats as he levels. It's a pretty fun thing to try out if you have nothing else you want to do. But other than that, you know, it's a good thing to add with the multiple other arcade games that exist. Final arcade game we're going to talk about is one I found not really hidden in the depths, but it's called Zombie Defense. And it's a fun mode. You can play with up to 5 people, and you have 5 bases, which all have high mineral patches and 3 gases, and you basically just defend. There's 3 lanes that exist that zombies or just enemy units will come swarming out of at you, and you have about 6 to 10 minutes to prepare for the zombies to come. You can build up your army, tech up to what you need, and then you just sit back and you try to defend against whatever's coming in. Now, once the game starts and you play through the first couple rounds, they will throw some curveballs at you. They'll, you know, roaches can pop up, anywhere on the map, so your main frontal line may not be able to defend it, and then you get Omegalisks, which are these huge Ultralisks that are just very difficult to kill. And, you know, you have rounds where there's Psionic Storms on the lanes that the zombies come through, so if you're one of those people who's trying to wall off the lane and have it a surrounded feel on it, you can't, because the storms will destroy all your units. It's a fun game mode. There's no real way to win it. It's like Call of Duty Zombies, you just last as long as you can. It's a really fun game mode. I think a lot of people who will try this will actually get a lot of entertainment out of it. So try it out, see what you think, and you may just have another reason to play StarCraft 2. So in summary, let's get down to the point here. StarCraft 2 is not all about the campaign and all about the actual game, which a lot of it is supposed to be. But, you know, I as a person have always doubted the arcade and what is in there, and there is a lot in there to look at. The point of this video, yes, we looked at some very specific arcade games, but the general statement I'm making is that arcade has a lot to offer players of all types. You know, it has these games, it has all sorts of different things like that. It has, you know, it even has training games where you just learn to micro and macro with a certain race to the extreme. It focuses on those so they can actually be directly transferred into your StarCraft 2 play. The possibilities in the arcade are endless. I've actually thought about making a whole series dedicated to just what exists in the arcade for StarCraft players. But, you know, with Legacy of the Void coming up, a lot of people are going to be asking that question, is it worth buying this expansion? Yeah, the campaign's going to be good, hopefully. I mean, I have yet to have a disappointing StarCraft campaign in my experience, but, you know, just to buy it, the $40 expansion for a 2-day campaign, it might be worth it, but, you know, a lot of people don't want to put the time into the strategy. You know, the people who played StarCraft 1, like I did when I was younger, and now adults, they have lives to live. It's hard to dedicate the time to a game. But I'm telling you guys that this is a good, you should get the expansion. The arcade has endless amounts of things for you to try out, in addition to your normal StarCraft play. So don't count this game out yet. This is my best attempt to revive StarCraft 2 for those of you who aren't as interested as you used to be. So with that said, please like and subscribe for more content. Leave comments with any additional questions below. And there are plenty of other arcade games out there for different things. I personally love the game StarCraft, so I hope if you've lost interest in it, this will help refund it a little bit. But I will see you guys in my next video.